Hello and welcome to Scott Bryson Beyond the Service. You guys are in for a real treat tonight. I was on his podcast a few weeks ago and now he's returning the favor. My friend from New Zealand, former SAS, Damian Porter. Damian, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
It's great to see you, Scott. You're a true gentleman, and just for the intro there, for the sake of integrity, New Zealand SAS was my employer, but I was part of the commando, and originally was the counter-terrorist tactical assault group. So there's a slight difference there with the commandos and the counter-terrorist team. We were the guys in black, much like your CAT team and FBI HRT together. So we actually had two squadrons there. So great to be part of that. Changed my life, and just want to make sure that I've got that there for all the badged guys out there that were in the unit that trained me and that I put the yards in for as well.
Okay, so let's just get right into it because I'm on not a hard out, but I've got about an hour here before I have to actually go do something else. So let's just jump into the interview. What sort of prompted you to want to join?
That's easy. So in 2005, I was in the infantry battalions in the regular army, and a recruiting poster came up for a new squadron that I was just speaking about with New Zealand SAS. What was happening was we've got a very small special forces unit, and as you know, but probably the public don't know, a lot of the special forces units are pretty small. Mm-hmm. And our guys were going to Iraq, making money, private contracting, and we were losing the counter-terrorist team, losing the hostage rescue team numbers. So New Zealand SAS CO realised, hey, in order to keep it alive, this is a historical moment for New Zealand Special Forces. In order to keep them alive, they had to recruit and raise a counter-terrorist only squadron. And so 2005, the inaugural selection for that occurred. I was lucky enough to be part of that original selection and passed that selection, and went straight onto the team after we did our training. And we were the first black role, the first counter-terrorist and hostage rescue team standalone for New Zealand SAS. And because of us, for our 15 to 19 years that we were around, we allowed New Zealand SAS to still be there. Otherwise, they probably would have been eaten up by the big army. So what prompted me to join was the guys in black doing the thing, and just wanted to see if I was good enough to pass. I remember you told me that on our show, Scott, and it turned out that I was good enough to pass. And it was a phenomenal pressure, phenomenal learning curve, and it was life-changing for me. So just at the end of the day, it was putting my balls on the line to see if I could pass that course, and I was lucky enough to do that.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. I love people like yourself. I think we tend to gravitate toward one another, and I don't care what unit or what country you're from. It's an intangible thing that people have or don't have, and I think that's amazing. What was one of the things or several of the things that pushed you to your limit during training that you thought, oh man, this might be it?
So during selection, which is a short, for us it was a 7-day selection. I believe after doing selection myself, it was a different name then, but that's irrelevant. And then actually running as a directing staff some of the selections, I believe that you've got to be ready to. It sounds brutal, but be ready to die, to be ready to put your life on the line. Like I'm going all in, going 100% in, or not, and be ready to give it your all in the course. So the answer to your question there is. There was a time on the course we just finished one of the tasks, horrible tasks in a team. You've absolutely fatigued, you've been awake for 3 to 4 days straight. And I was hypothermic and ready to pass out. And there's a stage there where I was like, well, if I pass out, they'll probably bring me to, and I fail. And if I still stand up and take the next step, hopefully I can carry on. And that was a pivotal moment during that selection. It was a pass or fail for me. It was like, well, I'm going to try and take the next step, and if I live, I live. That was one of the toughest times, but that was actually easier than the training courses. The training courses, as you well know, they're so intellectually and mentally challenging. Yes, there's physical, and yes, you push yourself to the limit physically, but the mental component was way harder. Let me think about some of the training. the explosive entry and room combat was life and death decisions every second of what you're doing there. And that was probably the most mentally taxing time. You had to get it right. Otherwise, you die, your mate dies, the whole team dies. If you set that charge off at the wrong time, it's not going to go well. So what we call room combat, you call it CQB now, along with explosive entry. That was probably the hardest 4 weeks we had there on one of the phases of the training. Incredibly hard mentally. And to sum it up for the listener, you're expected in all those units, 2-2 SAS, Delta, you're expected to be shown it once and then you do it. You won't do it perfectly, like to a Delta standard or a badge standard, but you're expected to then have that skill in that instant. So the learning curve is, to say it's steep is an understatement.
What's the attrition rate during selection and or training?
It's fairly standard. It's around about 90%, which is pretty standard for all the tier 1 units. Around, I think for us on the start line, they had around 100 or so, and at the end of the day, I think we had about, actually I can't say the numbers because that would give one of the important things away, but that was around about 80% fail rate. But that, remember, we're a new squadron. But for New Zealand SAS, which it is now, it's around about 10%. But sometimes, and this is perfectly answering your question, after the selection and on the cycle of training, sometimes no one passes.
Yeah.
They don't care if you have to hit the standard. So you might have 2 guys on the training cycle for 9 months, and nobody passes. So it's a tough gig. You got to have the standards held high.
Well, that's what we've talked about that on this show multiple times. And what I like to say is, and you just said it, is the standard is the standard. You know, I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care if you're a woman. Like, if you can do it, let's go. But if you can't be on the team. And it's that simple. And I think here in America, I don't know about down there, but, you know, DEI has come in and basically ruined a bunch of stuff. Have you guys experienced that down there as well?
Yeah, the pronouns are in some of the signature blocks of the guys that still email me, and it's not a good thing, but they have to do it to get their promotions. But the other side of it, and if I can go back to what you said about a female, humour and humility is one of the tenets from David Sterling, the creator of 2-2 SAS, the British SAS, and it's one of ours. We heard there was 2 females coming up on the selections once. We're sitting there going, brilliant, let's see what they got. The people they're trying to impress and get passed by, we're like, come on up, let's go. And do you know what? They get bullied out of it by the regular army, either wannabes or mainly wannabe people that didn't make it. So they never even come to the start line, Scott, and we want to see them. I don't care who you are. You can be blue, black, gay, female. If you can do the job beside me, you're in. But no, that was really disheartening. We wanted to see them come up and see what they could do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. The people that talk about being tolerant usually aren't. And those of us who are a little bit more conservative-minded or selfless, what I consider selfless, because who wants, you know, what normal person goes out there and puts it all on the line, knowing you could possibly, you know, die in training just to get to this very hard attainable goal. But yet we're the ones with the problem. I don't think so. But anyway, I'm not going to get into politics today. I promise. I'm going to keep it.
Hey, you reminded me of a story I can tell about that die during training. One of the things that we do is we slide down elevator cables, and we were on a training course for this when we were learning to be operators. And I remember coming up to, it was my turn to reach out and down these elevator wires. And it's pretty daunting, and you know you're going to fall to your death if you don't get it right. Well, I come on up, and there's two SAS guys there that are training us, and I say training because that's not really what they're doing; they're just supervising us. And he looks at me, he goes, "Porter." I say, "Yes, staff," because we call them staff. I said, "Do you know what you're doing?" I said, "Yes, staff." And he looks at me, and you know what it's like when you're in there and you've been in for a while. He was being cheeky, but of course we don't really know that. He goes, "You do know if you don't do this right, you will die." And I had to say, "Yes, staff." He goes, "Well, go on then." And you reach out and it's a leap of faith because there's a gap. It's not like you're going to touch that cable. You got to reach out and there's a gap and then you're down the cable. So yeah, I remember, I'll never forget those words from, gosh, that's 20 years ago and printed in my brain. You do know if you don't do this right, you will die.
Nothing like a dark sense of humor to keep it real.
Exactly.
That's great. What do you think is one of the misconceptions that the general public has, civilians have toward the big army in general, and of course, special forces people?
Oh, big army in general, maybe just their education level or their level of intelligence. That'd be one, I think. What they're actually capable of. New Zealand Army is really a helpful humanitarian sort of army. We'll go to the islands like Samoa, Fiji, because they have cyclones all the time, and a lot of the job is reconstruction. Moving on to special forces, everybody that's met me through the self-defense courses I've run them for 24 years, they think you're going to be some chest-beating guy, and you're just not. And that's the misconception I think people have about special forces guys. What's amazing to me is where they've gone on. You've got guys that have gone on to become professors, become doctors, leaders in the field, and the brain power on these guys that came from the regular army, and that's tying it back in a bow. They were just regular army soldiers, and now they're phenomenal leaders in their field, and it just shows the quality of the person that gets through.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, without giving away any tradecraft or secrecy, not trying to get anybody put in prison here, can you talk about a deployment or a mission that really impacted you or that stands out in your mind that you think about from time to time?
Oh, that's interesting. I was thinking about that today for some reason. I did one overseas deployment, which was East Timor. I did that before I joined the unit, and that was a really interesting tour in the jungle in East Timor. So maybe I'll speak to that. And actually, there was a moment in time I'll never forget. So we were there when 9/11 happened. If I paint the picture, we're at a fire base, that's the American term. There was a platoon of us, 30 guys, at a fire base 1,100 meters up in a hill. And we would run jungle patrols. So we'd go and be covert for 5 days. And we'd come out, and then we'd run a blue hat patrol in the villages, hearts and minds, and we'd stay at the base after that for 5 days and be a quick reaction force. Well, I was in the base, and I was walking past our little radio shack, and the guy leans out the window and he says, "Hey, have you heard 2 planes crashed into the Twin Towers?" And he was a jokester, Scott. That sounds like the lead up. That sounds like the lead up to a joke. And it wasn't. And what happened, and I bet no one will know this, we were locked down for 2 days, for 48 hours straight, no comms in and out, because we literally thought World War III was happening. Remember where we are. We're in Indonesia, and they've got a 1 million man standing army. We thought World War III was going to happen. It would be us, the Australians, the British against Indonesia, who is a Muslim country with a 1 million man standing army. We thought it was all on. So the perspective we had versus the perspective you had at 9/11 versus the perspective of someone I know that was in London underneath Big Ben, someone who was in France underneath the Eiffel Tower, was completely different. And we literally thought it was going to be a World War III happening right then and that day.
So, how did they finally get word to you that about what actually did happen, and then what were your SOPs? Once you figured out, okay, did you guys exfil from there, or did you stay in country, or?
We stayed in country. It was a very conservative mission. We saw the videotape. Videotape. That's how backwards we were. 2 weeks later, the information filtered down to us eventually that it wasn't going to be World War III, that it was a terrorist act, and we cracked on. I'll just never forget where I was. I literally can remember the weather, the place I was, the what that guy looked like, and even the wood on the building. It was very interesting times then, and I guess we knew the world had changed, and when we came out of the jungle, it was going to be a very different world.
Yeah, well, you're right about that. So this might be a good segue question. I don't know. Based on your time there, how did that shape your view, or did it change, or how did it shape, and how did it change, if it did change, your view toward leadership in and out, like not just within the military, but just in general? Like the military is very rigid; it's usually black and white. Life, as we know, is pretty gray sometimes. How did that time in the unit mold your view toward leadership?
Yeah, that is really life changing. I'm not a religious guy. I did become a born again Christian at one stage, but it was like being born again as an adult, going through that crucible and coming out the other side. Scott, the leadership in special forces is about getting it done. You know, you call the boss by his first name or call him boss. You're not calling him sir. You're not saluting. Leadership is run by the sergeants and run by the sergeant majors, and again, you call them by their nicknames or their names. It just showed maturity and common sense. And I remember interviewing Pete Blaber, Delta Force CO. He's got a book called The Common Sense Way, and that's what it is. It's common sense, and also just no bullshit. Just get it done straight away. Very different than the regular army, which was all about rules that didn't make any sense. It had to make sense. And yeah, I just cut a video the other day. I'll never forget my officer commanding. His name's Duncan Roy. He's publicly known as CEO of New Zealand SAS later on. He stood at the squadron table once in our little room, and he said, "Listen, I don't give a if you make a wrong decision. I can't have indecision. If you make a wrong decision, we'll fix it. But what I can't have is indecision. It'll get you killed." And I thought, what an interesting sort of take on things. And I took that to heart as well. So common sense guys, great leaders, and you're always looking up to them and trying to, I guess, grow up to be them.
You know, I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that you heard that at one point, too, because I heard something very similar when I worked for this guy in my early career. And he was a hard ass. He was not particularly a nice guy, which is fine. You don't have to be a good leader. But the one thing that he said, he said it all the time. He didn't say it to us necessarily. He would say it in briefings and things when people were in town from out of towners would come in for a visit or whatever. And it just stuck with me. I was in my 20s, so I was still pretty impressionable. But he said, I need you, if something happens when you're on post, I need you to do something. I would rather you explain why you did something than why you did nothing. And I think so many people are just afraid to do their job because they're afraid they're going to get in trouble. And we could do a whole podcast on that. Like, you know, especially here in America, the law enforcement guys have been bastardized, you know, with, defund the police and all that other crazy stuff. But it starts with leadership. And I'm sure you feel this way. I'd like to hear your take on this. You know, I think there's a tremendous difference between leadership and management. I worked for a bunch of managers. I worked for a handful of leaders. I want to be a leader. I want to be a leader of men, and I know you probably felt the same way in being around the people you were with. And there is a difference because, unfortunately, there's 10% everywhere. Even in SEAL Team 6 or Delta, you've probably got a couple of douchers walking around. But by and large, most of the guys are door kickers, and they lead from the front. I say I manage my finances. I lead people. What's your take on that?
It's funny. I was just thinking about that today, and I was going to put a post up about it. A leader needs to lead from the front. Doesn't need to be the best. I learned that when I was a soldier, when the officer cadets, the guys becoming officers, needed soldiers to move around. You don't have to be the best, but you can't be the last. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to lead and inspire. New Zealand, Fire and Emergency New Zealand, it's called. Not the fire brigade. They are a fire brigade, but they've changed the name straight away. Fire and Emergency New Zealand. You're like, oh, I wonder what that is. They've got a CEO. Mm. Holy cow, they don't have a chief. They have a CEO, and a CEO manages people. No. Combat and firefighting are the two toughest things I think you can do physically in the world. The most physically demanding. Mm-hmm. With parts of policing being a close third. Mm-hmm. Well, you need a leader. You need somebody who is prepared to lead you, people that guys are prepared to follow. You can't manage those people. You manage risk and manage the situation, but you lead people. Going back to what you're saying about DEI and girls and guys, in my fire brigade, there's a guy who's transitioned to be a female, so he's a she, gone through the things. That officer has worked for me. I worked for that officer. I would trust that officer with my life because that officer is a leader. No questions asked. It's a leader. But if that person was a manager, there's no way that's going to happen. Doesn't matter who they are. There's a huge difference between managing and leading. I agree with you totally. And the main part that would come from, it's got to be someone who's been there and done it, who's a leader.
Yeah.
I was just saying to my boy today, I'll never ask you to do something I can't do.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great, and I knew you were going to say that, but I wanted the audience to hear another human say because they probably get tired of me saying it. What role did fear, stress, or doubt play in your career, and how did you learn to control those emotions?
Are they emotions? Interesting. I think fear is an emotion. I was thinking about that the other day about fear. I can give an example of how to do it, then I'll try and figure out the answer of how I actually did it. When we did our parachuting course, Scott, we're training for 2 weeks straight. No, the course is 2 weeks. We're training for a week before we jump out of planes. And you're training, and then you're going to go do your first jump. Well, the parachute instructors, they've done thousands of jumps. And we're about to do our first ever jump out of a real airplane. He sat us down in a classroom, sat on the table, so he's nice and relaxed because it's not the yell at you environment. And he said, okay, fear. You're going to be out there in the plane and you might feel your fear come up. Think of it as a volume dial. Just turn it down. It'll be there, but just turn it down. And then you can control that. So it was a tool he gave me.
That's good.
And I've used that if I've been under pressure, if I've used it, things are going sideways, just take a breath, turn it down. And then physiologically, if I need to control stress, I'll do box breathing. All the units do a form of combat breathing. We just take a deep breath and then go and do the job. But I might do box breathing. I might do a nice few deep breaths to control that stress. And then the main one is just analyze the situation and figure out a action, a solution. You talk about OODA loop, all these fancy words, but hopefully we've been through it enough over and over in training that it's a normal thing. But managing fear is about turning the dial down. Competency takes fear away completely. If you're competent at it and you understand, I mean, a parachute is a weird thing to jump out of a plane, but I trusted the thing was going to open when I jumped out. So I think competency and there's that term, knowledge dispels fear. You said fear, stress, and you had a third one.
I don't know. What was it? Fear, stress, and doubt. Doubt. Doubt does creep in from time to time. So,
yeah, self-doubt. I think again that that comes through training, repetition, and we are arrogant as special forces guys, but the arrogance comes from competence. You're better than the bad guy. We don't go around thinking we're better than everybody else, but we're better than the bad guys. So we've got to have that instilled in us. And it's from our repetitions of training, the millions of rounds we put down, the amount of times we've gone through it and got it better and better and better. And then being brutally honest. Hey, I went through that door and I screwed this up. I went the wrong way. I did this. I said the wrong thing. It's absolutely transparent, so you can get it right the next time because as you know, in close protection, there's no place to hide. There's no place for freezing, as your boss said. So again, competency and repetition will overcome that from what I've seen.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Training's key, right? Because you're gonna fall to your, how do they say it? You're gonna fall to your lowest level of training. Is that how they say it? Can't quite.
Yeah, there's a term, and people don't understand it. You're gonna revert to your lowest level of training. You're not going to step up and be John Wick if you never held a gun. You're not going to be able to do a tracheotomy on someone if you never held a scalpel. And you're not going to be able to do CPR on someone and save their life if you've never done it. You might have seen it on TV. It ain't going to work. You fall back to your lowest level of training.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm under stress, if I'm going to rescue someone as a firefighter, and even in special forces, I would still say to myself, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. The basics done well. I will still do that.
Yeah. That is so funny. That's what we say that here, righty tighty, lefty loosey. That is great. That's universal. But I believe in the KISS principle. Are you familiar with the KISS principle?
100% agree.
Keep it simple, stupid. I mean, simplicity works, Anyway, I think that's good stuff, man. I knew you were gonna. I pretty much know what you're gonna say before you say it, but the audience needs to hear it. It's amazing how like-minded we are. What kind of brotherhood and bond did you experience there, and do you have that same thing now, or do you miss it? Because I personally miss it.
3 questions there. The brotherhood and bond, the camaraderie in that unit is like no other. It's a lifestyle job. And for those listening that are wanting to get into Special Forces, or some are just baby in Special Forces, it's a lifestyle job. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle. So it's phenomenal. It's one of the best. You're making life and death decisions. You're putting rounds past someone's head. Your mate's head this close, rounds past their head, and they trust you. If someone says hold, we're in a room, if someone says hold, and I just stand still, I don't care what's going past my head. I'm not going to move. He's told me. I trust that guy with my life. He trusts me with his, and we trust each other. So the camaraderie is phenomenal. And you might not like each other, but you sure as hell trust each other as well.
Oh yeah.
With the different personality types, that's absolutely normal. Do I experience it now with 1 or 2 in my role? I've been a firefighter for 15 years, 1 or 2. But do I miss it? Yeah, I miss that every single day, because nothing compares to it. And it's that stress, the high level of stress that you're under, and the relationships you're forming in those spaces. And I still stay in touch with those guys. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Yeah, I played college football for a few years. Of course, there's the locker room and the brotherhood, so to speak, in there, and then the police, roll call and stuff, and then you're answering calls by yourself. But then your backup's he's going to save your butt, or she, and then that's what I was looking for. That's one of the reasons I joined the CAT team. I miss the brotherhood, the camaraderie. I think like-minded people. We kind of gravitate toward like-minded people, and so yeah, I've been out for a few years now, and I'm working, and I have some good friends for sure. But I do miss the larger group of basically like-minded people with the same skill set. And I don't mean that to sound cocky. I just being honest. I miss my buddies. What's the hardest part about transitioning from the military back, especially what you were doing, into civilian world?
That's a loaded question there, and I asked you that question the other day as well. I interviewed Nick Caldwell, who's an Australian SAS, and his quote, and I'll never forget it, was transitioning from the military to civilian life was harder than war. And he went to war. Australia military went to Iraq war. We did Afghanistan. I didn't. Our guys did Afghanistan. So he was in real war, and it was harder. What's the hardest part about transitioning? It's finding your purpose, I think. For me, only speaking for me, finding your purpose and doing what you love with that. I'm a firefighter. I do really enjoy that there. But when I was back in America last month, running and gunning again, it was brilliant. And being around the Delta guys and being around other like-minded people, I was back home. I was an American, never been around that place, but I was back home.
Yeah.
So finding a purpose is important. The connection is important. And how do you do that? It doesn't happen straight away. It's not a job that you go from one job to a next job the next day. when you do that, the next job, if you're going to work in a bank or an office or whatever you're going to do, that's hard. I haven't done that, but guests I've interviewed, that'll mess up your head, because that's not your purpose. You got to find your purpose. I love teaching. The How Not to Die Guy stuff, that's on the side. It's making me hardly any money. I think I'm making enough to run the website. But I love teaching that stuff, and that's my purpose.
Yeah.
And I've got a career as a firefighter as well. But that is the hardest part, was finding purpose. I was into police straight away. That was a lot of fun. It was easy to do, because stepping down to police from special forces, it made a lot of sense. But that would be my answer, Scott. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know. I haven't got advice on how somebody else could do that. I could talk to them and we figure it out.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I think it's very individualized. I mean, it's definitely not cookie cutter. If it was, I'd write a book about it, but I don't think you can. Generally speaking, I don't think there's an answer. I think it's definitely everybody's different, which is what you just said. Looking back, what do you think the military got right, and what do you think they've maybe could improve on?
The military, that's a bit broad.
Let's talk about your unit. I didn't want to get too specific, but if you whatever you feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah, no, I can answer that. I think the military could really work on retention in general, just like any place that needs quality people. Retention was the reason that I was born into special forces, because they weren't retaining the guys. The guys wanted to go and shoot and scoot and make a lot of money, so they went to Iraq and made a lot of money. It was awesome. That's when the mercenaries turned into private military contractors. So retention would be a really important thing that the military screws up a lot. And then same thing for, I'd say, special forces from the unit I was in. We tend to look at things a little bit like a life through a straw a little bit. And if the military could educate guys on how good it is, what they're doing, and the big picture stuff, that would be great. Basically what I'm saying here is, when you're in, from my point of view, the grass is always greener somewhere else. But looking back, it's not. And going back to the reunion for the New Zealand SAS 70th birthday the other day, that's what I spoke to them about a lot. You got to realize it's a lifestyle job. So what can the military get right? Retention, they need to do that. What do they do right? For our unit, standards and training was phenomenal. Yeah. I've got the Tees shirt on for a reason. Alan Brosnan from Tees here, he's been in America for 30 years. His skill set was so good, because all the operators were, that he started teaching breaching to the world there, and has got a phenomenal business, a world leader. But the training and skill set that New Zealand SAS give is second to none.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. All right. What would you tell a young Kiwi who is maybe aspiring to join the military, or more specifically, special forces, because that is, a very hard but attainable goal. If you don't try, it's already no. And a lot of people, I think, are afraid to even try. But there are a handful of people out there who are willing to put it on the line. So if you have the right mentality and you're willing to even try, what would you say to that person?
Definitely do it. Definitely do it. Advice-wise, find someone who's been there and done it. Find a has-been. There's a big difference in a has-been and a wannabe. Huge difference. I spoke to it before. Probably the wannabe sergeants taught those two poor girls out of it. I say girls, they were young. But find a has-been, because the person has been there and done it. So find that person and learn from them. Go out in the bush with them on a hard 2 or 3 days and learn what the mindset is, because it is up here. I said at the start, I was prepared to fall over unconscious, because once you're unconscious, you might as well be dead. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. I was prepared to lay it all on the line then and there, or step forward another step and keep going. You got to have this mindset, and you got to learn from someone who's been there and done it. The physical things, now we're in 2025. You can go online. I've interviewed guys that train special forces guys. Joe Kaufman, I believe it is, from the Warrior Calling. He trains SEALs. Another one Green Berets. He trains guys for Special Forces selection. There's tons of places out there, and they're all very skilled. That's the physical side, though, because if you're just a physical behemoth, you don't have it here, you will fall over on day one.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll fall over on day one, you can't hack it.
Yeah.
So you've got to find someone and find that mindset and learn it and become it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, those were the 10 questions I had scripted out. Is there anything that you would like to talk about in your current life that that I might not know about? The fact that you've been a fireman. Do you want to talk about that? And because you said that job is almost as physically taxing as being in the Special Forces units. Do you want to talk about that training for just a minute? And because there could be people out here listening that might want to be a fireman one day as well.
Yeah, look, I love that. I was listening to something today, police, army, and fire. And I don't know if it was something from the Oval Office or something that I was listening to. And maybe it was that for recruiting. Nobody wanted to be a policeman, firefighter, or join the army, and the recruiting standards, recruiting's gone up. I think it was from the Oval Office in address. It's a tough gig, but those are the people you need to come save you. Firefighting is a great career, great lifestyle, and the camaraderie is there because it is life and death decisions again for yourself and for someone else. I've been in situations where literally, if this guy wasn't going to do a thing, I'll probably die. And of course, it's the same thing when you're rescuing people. It's a great career. If you're thinking about it, reach out to a firefighter. Again, reach out to a has-been or someone who's actually doing it, and just find out what it is, what it takes to get in, what the job entails. And again, you got to be a certain type of person. Speaking to a girl the other day, you got to be the type of person that we can go and do the worst job ever, Scott, like the Secret Service agents who saved President Trump from the assassination, and then go home and switch off, and or have a cup of coffee, and you got to do the job and then do this. You got to be able to switch on, switch off, because we're doing it as a career. So you got to be a certain type of person. But if you're thinking about it, it's great. All those jobs we mentioned, police, fire, army, they're great jobs as long as they're the right fit, as long as you find that purpose and you can push yourself through them to your limits. Yeah, I've got nothing bad to say about them, apart from New Zealand Fire Service. You got to don't have a CEO, you want to have a fire chief.
That's pretty wild. That sounds like they took a page out of the American playbook on silliness on that one. That's funny because America seems to get a bunch of stuff wrong when it comes to leadership.
Yeah, you got to lead from the front a bit, and gone up for the ranks. The best leaders, and I'm sure you saw, and is the Secret Service guy not one of those guys that was protecting Trump on top of him? The best leaders come from the guys who are on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something a minute ago that really resonated with me. I forget the exact terminology used, but you were talking about jobs, and it's a lifestyle job. I think that's what you said. One of the things I've tried to preach to my children that are grown, they're in their 20s now, and not just them, but young adults that I've had a chance to interact with or mentor, there's a difference between a job and a career, right? And jobs are fine. I've had a ton of jobs, but my career, which is basically another way of saying what you said, is a lifestyle, and you have to find that work-life balance. So if you're, and I've heard, I'm sure you follow these guys on social media too, like DJ Shipley and Eddie Penny and Sean Ryan and all the Delta guys that are kind of, quote unquote famous out there. Like, having that work-life balance is tough. And if you don't make an effort to take care of your wife and your children and your own mental well-being, I mean, the job will consume you. And while you're in, and while these guys are active, especially the Delta guys, while they're in, and the SEALs, it's their life, and they pretty much don't care about anything else. And I love the fact that they're transparent about that and very honest about it. When they were in the teams, all they wanted to do was work out and shoot and get after it.
Yeah, 100%. I know where you're going with that, with sort of the unasked question. In an elite unit, that's the way it is. You're great at this one thing. great, 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 and everything else is going to fall over. So when you're not the operator anymore, the whole column falls over. I interviewed Mark Matheson, who's a psychologist for the Australian Special Forces here, and he's out in private practice now. And he talked about a base. We're really, really good. We go way up here in this one thing we're great at. It's like Jenga, but no firm base. So I saw marriages fall over, all these things, because of the way it works. For the listeners out there, it goes mission, unit, country, family, and in that order. That's it. And mission, if you're going to go before that, it's me and DJ beside each other shooting. So he saves my life, I save his. So it's in that order, and it'll fall over. Now, what Mark Matheson was talking about was, can we take a different look at that and try and get a really firm base? Because imagine you're a 19-year-old female who's trying for the Olympics, and you get a career-ending injury, and you got no firm base. What are you going to do? For all that person's life, they've been trying to go for the Olympics, rightly so, but there's no firm base. So it's really important to get a firm base of everything around you. So good education across the board, good friends, good family support, and all those things. So if you do get a career injury, or when DJ left the team, you got something to move on to, rather than what he did and what Cole did. They've got to then figure out mental health. What are these new practices going to put into place at 19 years after being an operator? Why not put them into place now? So that would be a really clever thing for someone listening to this, going into their lifestyle job, lifestyle career, going, I need a firm base. And it's like a pyramid, and that's what I've been doing with my hands. Sorry, listeners, I was simulating a pyramid. It's a firm base of a pyramid rather than one single column. And you even see it with CEOs and high-performing rich people and so on. Once that thing goes, they've got no firm base to fall over, to fall back on, and their marriages fall over, and they lost their family, and they're divorced, and their kids are out there. So the firm base idea that Mark Matheson put on was really, I think, a mature way to look at it, a holistic way to look at it, and I would love that to be something that the people that are listening that would do as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's good stuff, and I think that's exactly right. If you don't have a firm foundation, like the old gospel hymn says, then it's over. And for me, it is my faith. For some people, it's other things. But you have to have something, or you're going to turn to alcohol or porn or drugs, or God only knows what type of debauchery. So I think the first step is being aware, right? Like self-awareness is a key factor as well, which some people don't have.
Absolutely.
I'm very well aware of my shortcomings. But,
self-awareness is key. I agree. But the faith thing as well, Scott, I mean, you talked about DI, and you talked paraphrasing you, a bit of the downfall of what America's not doing well. The lack of the loss of the family unit from the 80s, that's been a real downside of things. Like, it's okay to be a single mum, single dad. Yeah, but it's also really tough not having that family unit. And then, of course, faith-based, I mean, we went to church every Sunday. That forms a community, forms a habit, and so on. And those are all great things. And it did give you a base to fall back on. And of course, the actual faith side, what's in your heart and what's in your mind, you got God at your back. So there's a lot of good to be said there for some traditional values.
Yeah. Well, I think that the world, I mean, I don't know if it's down there. It probably is. I think it's global. I know here in America, what was right is now wrong, and what was up is now down. It's just everything is backwards. And you touched on it with the nuclear family. Of course, that started here way back in the 60s, with Lyndon Baines Johnson, welfare and all this stuff. And like, they want people dependent upon the state versus each other. And I don't think, quite frankly, they want you to. Nowadays, I don't even know how my kids are going to buy a house. The market's insane. So it's like I feel like they just want us to be robotic and fall in line. And to me, it's almost very cultish. It's like politics itself has become a religion for some people, And we could do a whole episode on that sometimes. Maybe we'll have to come back and get into the weeds on some of that stuff if you'd like to come back sometime.
Very, very much love to chat with you, and yeah, thank you for the offer. I'll come back anytime.
Well, why don't we give yourself a little shout out about the how not to die guy stuff, so my people can maybe find you over there on Insta. I've been watching you on Instagram. It's good stuff.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And so's yours, resonates so well. And I screwed up yesterday and put a video out that I've just done another video about. It's interesting about social media. Yeah, look, hownottodieguy.com is the website. I teach self-defense, situational awareness, and safety to all populations from special forces based unarmed combat and armed combat. How Not to Die Guys on Instagram. And those videos that you see, I get a message once a week to once a month, and it saved someone's life or someone they know. I had a message last week. It saved a woman here in Western Australia where I am. So yeah, that's my purpose. I love teaching people. I love helping people, and yeah, it's a real passion project. Yeah, I've managed to find a bit of my purpose in this. God, isn't it hard putting yourself out on social media though?
Oh man, it takes some balls. I'll be honest with you, because it's not only your name and it's your name and your face, and of course, the internet trolls come out very quickly.
Yeah,
Well, and it's not
they
even.
sure
I
do.
don't care about that
Yes.
stuff. I mean, it's somebody living in their mom's basement, most likely. Who cares? But it's the guys at work that bust my chops the most. Like, oh, they make fun of my little safety tips. I'm like, shut up, guys. Just I'm trying to help. There are women out there that aren't, or not just women, but like a large portion of my audience is women. We run the analytics. Of course, Instagram runs your analytics for you. And like 62% of my audience are women over 50, so it resonates with them, And at the bottom line, if I have to be the butt of a few jokes to help someone, so be it.
Absolutely, I totally understand. I'm the same. If I often finish a show, if one thing I've said can help one person out there amongst the millions, then you've done your job, and that's all I'm trying to do is help good people.
Well, it's funny because I got him, not finally. I'm starting. I've been doing this for about a year, and I've been asked to go speak to a few places, which I'm excited about doing. I want to do that. Last week, I went and spoke at my church at the women's group, and there was about 50 women in there from all ages, right? It was just a women's group, and I talked about safety, the things that we talk about, and they ate it up, man. And I thought to myself, well, this is just pretty common sense stuff. It's not rocket science, or I wouldn't be teaching it. But listen, at the bottom line is, if we can help someone, that's what it's all about, and I'm good with it.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Well, but why don't you? I want to close with one thing, and we're getting ready to wrap it up here. But I saw a video. I don't know if it was your last video, but I just saw it yesterday or the other day when you were talking about self-defense. I really liked what you had to say about self-defense. If you want to play I forget how you were talking about it, but you're like, it's not a game, or however you said it. About if you want to play a sport, go play a sport. But self-defense is, basically not a joke. You want to regurgitate that for the crew right quick?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, self-defense is you find yourself in the worst situation ever, and you got to do horrible, bad things. Otherwise, some bad guy's going to do the worst to you because the bad guy's in charge, not you. Well, self-defense isn't sport. If you want to do sport, go play sport because you play sport. You play BJJ, you play boxing, you play rugby, whatever. Go play sport. But self-defense is literally saving your life or someone else's under the worst conditions. And those sports can give you tools. Love those sports. But self-defense is not a game. Self-defense is those guys and girls jumping on top of President Trump at the time. It's not the guy who's the fastest pistol shooter in the world because they didn't get rounds off. So self-defense is not a sport. Go play a sport. Go have fun with that. If you want to learn self-defense, learn it from somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. There's lots more people out there than me, but learn it from the right people.
Yeah, that really was good. And I mean, all your stuff's good, but that one really resonated with me the other day. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to have to get permission from him to maybe repost that, and so some of my audience can maybe see that. Are you cool if I kind of repost it and do a little tag on that?
Please do. I'm like Sean Ryan says, please rip the videos, get them out there, get them to everybody, so everybody can get the information. So
Yeah.
please,
Well,
if you see anything in mine, go for it.
You're full of good information, and I really appreciate your time. I know it's a little bit of the last time we did this on your show, I screwed up I was thinking we were 13 hours apart, but we're 12, and I was sitting in here waiting. I was like, I'm in here, and you're like, dude, it's 2. I think I was 2 hours off. I don't know. So that was embarrassing, but we got it right, and then we're doing it again, and we got it right this morning, first time. So thank you for your patience and your kindness, and I'd love to do this again sometime.
Thank you for having me. It's a true honor, and I mean that. You're a true gentleman, and just love spending time with you.
Listen, you have a great day or a great night coming up, and we'll talk soon, okay?
100%, Scott. Thank you.
See you, buddy.